Hello there everyone! In my previous video I have suggested the existence of a Pentium 4 Northwood-based computer that is in my possession. This video it just so happens to be about that computer. So let's take a closer look at it. As mentioned in the previous video, there's a bit of an issue with the computer. I am not entirely sure what's going on, but I do have a fairly decent guess. So what happens is, after a while it just completely locks up. Um, That is if I try to use a web browser and potentially it fills up the memory. If it's just doing other kind of stuff, like I've even used it as a router before, it was working perfectly fine. That suggests to me that there might be an issue with the memory modules, so we're going to look into that today. This system is it has an Intel Pentium 4 3.06 gigahertz Northwood. Now this processor is one of the last of its kind to support the 533 megahertz frontside bus. So this is basically the fastest CPU you can put into this motherboard. And not only that, it also supports hyperthreading, this is the only 533 megahertz frontside bus CPU, Pentium 4 CPU that supports hyperthreading. A lot of computers don't even support this CPU, but this one happens to do so. So that's very lucky, and I can even enable hyperthreading, so that's really nice from an old motherboard such as this. I do not remember the exact model of the motherboard. I do know it's made by Abit, but we'll look at the model number in a bit. So I guess we could, for now I'm just going to show you the case of the computer, as I don't have it taken apart yet, and I am going to be upgrading it in a bit. But let's just take a closer look at the case. This is one of my oldest cases I have. Originally, it had an Intel Celeron CPU in it, and I believe if I could get the camera in there, I could show you that, but I cannot. Unfortunately, this was a very poor attempt at showing the computer, so excuse me. I'll be taking this computer out of there sooner than later, so we can take a better look at it. But yeah, I'll have to take my word for it that this is indeed a Pentium 4 machine, not a Celeron. And so yeah, we will have to take it apart nonetheless and see what is wrong with it. And while we're at it, I'm also going to be upgrading the video card. This is what I've been talking about in the previous video. This is the ATI Radeon Sapphire HD 2600 Pro. And I took the liberty to remove this video card from its previous location, which was the kind of dodgy, not very nice looking Pentium 4 machine I have in the workshop. I'll be working on that computer as well in a later video, but for now I will not be needing this video card in that system, and this system could do much better with a video card such as this. So something interesting about these video cards is that they are basically PCI Express cards, and they're using a bridge chip that converts the instructions from PCI Express to AGP, so you can use it in an older computer. NVIDIA and ATI also, they both did this with their later cards, but AMD/ATI did support the AGP platform for a lot longer. The video card you saw in my previous video was actually one of the latest video cards you could get for the AGP platform, the HD 4650. This one being the 2600 Pro, it does not have some of the features that it comes with. It also supports DirectX 10.1, I believe, or only 10, maybe only 10. Actually, yeah, I think it's only DirectX 10, not 10.1, but it also does not have the same H.264 decoder that the HD 4650 has, so that one is better for multimedia use. But we will be only using this for video gaming, basically. So this is going to be inside the Windows XP machine. It has 512 megabytes of DDR2 RAM, whereas the 4650 had 1 GB. So yeah, this is going to be a part of the system. And also I took the liberty to take out the Chinese eBay memory out of the computer that you saw in the previous video. So as you can see, it boldly claims that it has support for DDR400CL3. Now that's a complete lie. These chips are basically overclocked 333 MHz chips, and they do not even happen to work at 400 MHz in my system. But as luck would have it, this computer can only support 333 MHz memory. Actually, no, even slower than that. Since it's a 533 MHz frontside bus system, it can only support 266 MHz without overclocking. But you'll soon see that this system has been slightly upgraded from that setup. So let me just turn off the flash on my phone, and let's fire up the computer and see what's up. So we're also going to be this older system, it unfortunately does not support booting off of USB. Not sure if I've said that before or not, but we will have to resort to using my UBCD disk. I am amazed that it actually booted into BIOS. That wasn't working so many times. I am actually surprised, because I'm using, since this is an old gaming computer, mainly, its purpose is to play games under Windows XP, had to have a gaming keyboard to go along with it. So like this keyboard adds at least 30 FPS to every game extra. That's pretty cool. Also really cheap and old touch stick mouse. At any rate, so like I was surprised because USB keyboards have a tendency to not be registered upon the post. So, but thankfully it seems to be working just fine. CPU warning temperature is pretty high. Not sure if I want to lower it, but I mean, cooling should be fine. I have a fairly decent cooling setup inside of this machine. It's kind of, not the most elegant solution. It might involve a bit of zip tie, but it's an old computer and it's completely fine by me. So if we look into this, this is the overclock I'm doing at the moment. So originally this computer, I was just using this as a PC to play emulated games connected to a CRT TV, which it was actually doing really well. But I have retired it since, so it is going to be, the plan is for it to be just a Pentium 4 Windows XP machine for some of the older games. And I think this video card will actually do a fantastic job at that. So as you can see, originally it had a 2.8 gigahertz Northwood processor because I thought that that's the fastest CPU. I still have that actually laying around. I thought that's the fastest, but it turns out it's not. And the 3.06 gigahertz Pentium 4, I had a feeling that it would work. I just didn't know that it would actually support hyperthreading. And it does. It's incredible, but it does. So as you can see, I have increased the FSB just a little bit. Thankfully, I found the right setting. This actually allows you to, this is a good motherboard. This allows you to tune the CPU, so like the base clock, without changing the AGP and PCI frequency. It was a very common issue with some of the older motherboards where they would not allow you to do that. So if you were to, just want to get a bit more out of your system, it was very hard. You couldn't do a whole lot. I remember I was actually using that 2.8 gigahertz Pentium 4 in an older system, and I could only go up to like about 3 gigahertz from 2.8, which is a very small increase, because it would always raise the AGP and PCI frequency until a point where my sound card was just, it could not handle the high PCI bus frequency. It really needs to be 33 megahertz. And when it went up to like 37, 38, it just stopped working. It didn't have any audio anymore. So you have to definitely use a motherboard that lets you just change the FSB on its own. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad time. Thankfully, the CPU not only lets you do that, but also lets you change the CPU core voltage. Now, I have overclocked this CPU like a really long time, but it looks like these are the best settings to use. I can't remember if I could actually go higher, but it was getting too hot, or what is the reason, but I am perfectly content with a 3.33 gigahertz overclock. I mean, it's not a lot. It's only about 300 megahertz, but honestly, that's still very decent, I think. And it's very close to the fastest Intel Pentium 4 on the Socket 478 platform, which is the 3.4 gigahertz press card with 1 megabyte cache and 800 megahertz frontside bus speed. So one of the lucky things, like I said, this only supports 266 megahertz memory, but since it's, you know, not really too hard to find memory that supports higher speeds than that, you can just basically have the memory be overclocked. Technically, it's not really overclocked for the memory itself, so I think it's a very neat little thing that you don't even have to worry about the memory frequency because it will just work. I think it's since it's, you know, set to 145 base clock from 133. That means the RAM is not going to be running at 266 but 290 megahertz, which is a fairly decent bit of overclock. And there you go. Okay, so it does have an 80 gigabyte hard drive, and I have no idea where that's from. I have no clue. I honestly don't even remember having that 80 gigabyte hard drive. It's a Samsung SB0802N. Now, where the hell is that coming from? I've put this computer together so long ago that I do not remember where I got it from. But time and date seems to be fine. Time is a little bit ahead by about the factor of 6 minutes. And yeah, everything seems to be fine. As you can see, it's currently at 1 gigabyte RAM. It has one 512 megabyte stick and two 256 megabyte sticks. It has 3 memory slots on the motherboard, but it does not support dual channel, as this is an older chipset. So it doesn't really matter what kind of memory sticks you put in. I don't have to worry about compatibility too much. 2.5 is the maximum cache latency. It should be fine. And I believe the AGP aperture size has to be this, I don't know. It only goes up to 256, which is weird. I think that's actually, isn't that like the amount the BIOS is allowing the computer to take off of the overall memory? I think it's something like that. So the memory, so like it can share up to whatever this amount is off of the system memory to use as VRAM. Unfortunately, this motherboard only supports up to 4x AGP, but that's still fairly decent, so we don't have to worry about that. So this is not really the absolute maximum in terms of bandwidth, so memory and AGP, but we can still get a pretty decent system out of this. Temperatures are looking fine. You don't really have to worry about the CPU temperature being 60 Celsius. The thing is, this is not quite idle. Like, if you think this is idle, this is not really. It is using some of the it is eating the CPU just a tiny bit. So this is not really idle. It's like a couple percent CPU usage, maybe like 50 perhaps. I don't know. I was actually worried about this at one point. I had a computer that just was going really like skyrocketing in CPU temperature in the BIOS, and I was like, if that's the idle, then I'm basically screwed, because any kind of load is just gonna overheat it. But thankfully, it doesn't seem to be the case. So let's quit out of this and let's boot into Windows just to show you the system running. So currently, the graphics adapter in it is actually it is, as you can see, there you go, hyper-threading technology enabled. I cannot actually find that option in the BIOS, now that I think about it. Did I find it? Is it there? Ah, whatever. It didn't let me this time. It didn't let me into the BIOS this time. This happens sometimes, but oh well. Anyways, it's turned on, so I don't really have to worry about it. So as you can see, Windows XP, it's kind of a similar build to what you saw on the previous machine. And as the same thing happened on this as well. So it seems to be like Steam has just basically stopped support for Windows XP completely, whereas it could actually boot into Steam, but then after restarting the system, it probably had some kind of an update that disabled this feature. So unfortunately, we won't be able to use Steam anymore on Windows XP. We have to find other solutions. But I guess, you know, you could just have Windows 7, or like a Windows 7 machine will be able to run Steam for the foreseeable future. Hopefully it will support it for quite some time, because 7 is like still very close to Windows 10 in technology, so I'm hoping that it will be fine. But as you can see, it will try to update Steam, and then it will just give us the fatal error. I don't know if I'm going to showcase the issue that we are experiencing. I don't see the point of it. It just kind of takes time to try and crash the system. So I guess you'll just have to take my word for it. We're going to, though, go into UBCD and run some mem tests and see what we can find, because I believe it's going to be the memory. Now, as of course, since I have not played around with old computers in a long time, I do not know where my UBCD is located. I've just been using thumb drives for every single computer because all of them can boot off of a thumb drive, but this one cannot, so I either have to go and find my UBCD disk, or just have to use a rewritable disk and burn it onto it. Now, there's no way in hell I can find Ultimate Boot Disk anywhere in my house, because you know how the saying goes, you won't find it until you really don't need it. So I went ahead and burnt it onto a rewritable media. Thankfully, this machine has a DVD burner, so it should have no issues reading this disk. Also, yeah, the graphics, I almost said what it has, but then I've been interrupted by a thought. So the graphics, I don't think, well, I could potentially just open the Catalyst control center. At the moment, it has a ATI Radeon 9600 slash 9550 slash X1050, but it does have a 9600 Pro, I believe. And there's a really weird thing with these video cards. It has been happening multiple occasions. I'm going to try to bring this a little bit closer. So, for some reason, two of my cards that are 9600 Pros have the same issue. I've never seen this with any other video card before, but for whatever reason, the VGA output does not work. It just outputs garbage on the screen. Like, you could get into the BIOS and then all you see is just weird colors and characters all over the place. I do not know why. So for this monitor, this does not have a DVI input, so I had to use a DVI to VGA adapter, and for whatever reason that works. I really don't understand why. I mean, it's still using the same VGA logic on the output side, so I have no idea why the native VGA port does not work. But at any rate, that's the video card. It's kind of a hassle, but yeah, it does not have enough power. I was hoping it would be able to run stuff like, you know, Need for Speed 4. As luck would have it, I'm probably not going to be able to run any of these games at all. Yeah, insert game disk. I have no idea why I have two of these as well. Yeah, okay, yeah, great. I guess Need for Speed 3 will work, but it just runs like absolute crap. And I don't know. I thought a 9600 Pro would be fine, but apparently it's not good enough for a 1998 game. It's gonna quickly start a race and then see what's up. I don't have any speakers hooked up at the moment, so we won't be hearing anything, but we'll be seeing the gameplay. I actually do not know what kind of settings I have. It looks to be fairly low resolution. Oh yeah, you can see it's just not running well. It's very stuttery. The CPU should be fine for this, but I mean, I guess it's not that bad looking at it now, but let me tell you, Need for Speed 4 runs like absolute garbage on this system. At least the version I tried was just terrible. So definitely this video card is going to help. Now you can see a bit of slowdown here as I'm nearing the other players. It's not the end of the world, but I think with the 2600 Pro we might be able to just barely get like a 60 FPS. We'll see. I want to try and upgrade it. I'll probably have to also download DDU to get rid of the drivers properly and then install the new one. But yeah, it's just a little bit, it could be better. And I think it's probably the graphics card that's holding us back when it comes to the Need for Speed 4. Kind of just had this idea going on that I'm gonna like put all the Need for Speed games onto this system, but it's been more complicated than I would have anticipated it. So now I'm going to go ahead and boot into the disk. Cleverly, I've selected shutdown instead of restart. So we're going to turn it on. I believe we're set to CD-ROM as the first boot device, so it should be fine. Don't have to press anything, which is good because I may not be able to press anything on this keyboard that will be registered. You could see I could actually modify the multiplier, but I don't think that does anything at all. Oh no, the keyboard is not working. Yeah, this is a common issue with USB keyboards in old computers. I'm going to have to bust out a PS2 keyboard for this part. So, you know what? Okay, I'll pause the video here, and then I'll be back with a keyboard that functions, and maybe we could see the results of the mem test. Let me tell you, I have no idea why people are raving so much about coiled cables. I think they are such a pain in the ass. Like, you're getting way less cable length, and it's just annoying to use. Like, are you supposed to just like stretch it? Like, why not just have a normal cable? I'm really not a fan of coiled cables. I'm kind of glad that they're gone. People look at it as like as an advantage, but I don't know. I'm not so sure about that myself. So here we go. Mem test. L1 cache seems to be running at 26 gigabytes a second. That's pretty cool. And L2 cache is pretty fast as well. Now for the memory, it says it's 797 megabytes a second. That's not that fast, obviously. But there you go. We can see it's running an Intel i845 chipset. Now, on more modern computers, it would even display such things as the timing of the memory that it's running at, but we're not getting that luxury here. At any rate, I'm going to be letting this run for a while, and then we'll come back to it and see what it's got, see what it has found. Well, 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 would you look at that? A very interesting turn of events. It would seem so that the pass is completed with no errors. As some would say, I would have to eat my words. This was not expected, but, well, I guess there are a couple things that could be wrong with this system, other than the memory. Maybe, it could be the video card. Either the video card is failing or the cooling solution on it is. It could potentially be overheating and just locking up the system. If that's not the case, I don't know. I'll have to dive deeper into this system. But at any rate, it seems like it's not the memory, so we're gonna have to move on from that assumption and try to figure out what else could be wrong with this system. For that, I'm going to have to, first of all, let me just go into BIOS so I can have enough time to take up the disk and okay, shut down the computer. I'm just gonna take a closer look at the system itself, see if I can see anything obviously wrong. Maybe, I don't know, I don't think it could be software because so the way this works is this machine was working perfectly fine about a year ago when I last utilized it. After that, I didn't really use it for anything other than once I picked it up for it to do a bit of lightweight router duty. It was acting as a router for an LTE modem, and it was doing that perfectly fine. At the same time, though, if I were to try to open a web browser and started messing about, it would crash. But it would never do that. It would never do that. Not after like even maybe a week of just functioning as a router. It would never crash. So that's really interesting. I thought a router duty would not use it. It would not use as much memory. So maybe potentially it could just work longer. But I guess I am wrong. Well, let's take a closer look at it. Also, the chipset seems to be i845E. Not sure what the E stands for, but maybe Express. Could be Express. It doesn't have onboard Intel video, so not quite sure. But at any rate, I'm gonna turn it off, taking the disk out of it, and lay it out and see what's up. Alright, so here we have the machine. Now you could be making comments on my wiring job, on the cable management, or the very interesting cooling modifications I've made, but I really do not care ultimately. So let's just take a look at it. So this is actually a fairly decent motherboard. It's got, if I can get my microphone wire out of the way, it's got an Abit motherboard. Not quite sure about the exact model. Oh yeah, there we go. It's an Abit BD7II, which is probably, it stands for 2, because it seems to be the BD7 2 RAID motherboard. So it's going to support a bunch of hard drive. Would you look at that? We've got a RAID controller on board. So we can basically hook up 4 hard drives onto this one, other than the 4 hard drive / DVD drives onto the main connectors. That's pretty cool. So here's that video card I was talking about. This is the ATI Radeon. It says R96A, so it's going to be an ATI Radeon 9600 Pro most likely. It's got a tiny fan here. This seems to be working, I think. Doesn't feel very hot at all. So yeah, it's got a unique fan on it that's just basically screwed into a passive heatsink, I believe, something like that. I think I still have the original cooler somewhere, so I could put it back on it, but at the time this seemed to be a better option. It looks like we have this. Where is this from? I think. Oh, it's actually pretty hot. This CPU is still absolutely scorching hot. I'm wondering if that could be potentially overheating. I don't know. I'll have to look at the system's temperatures while running. One thing I noticed was the power supply was pretty hot. It's still hot. Not sure. I don't know if that could be overheating. Hopefully not. This is a HEC, if I could read that properly, 300 AR PT power supply. It's a 300-watt power supply. It's a Pentium 4 ready. So, it's a Pentium 4. What's up, dude? Maybe it's not enough. I don't know. It seems to be a fairly decent power supply. It's very well built. It's fairly heavy. So I assumed it would be fine. Really, I think I just got it off out of the recycling center, and it's been doing a great job. We have 2 hard drives here. This should be the Samsung because of the shape of it. I have still no idea where this is from. Where I got this hard drive from. Because I do know that I have 2 other Samsung 80GB hard drives, and I thought I only had 2, but somehow I have 3. And there's also this one. This is actually a slimmer Maxtor drive in there, 40GB. So I really do not know what is the problem. The CPU is still absolutely scorching hot. It's almost as if like it's getting power while it's off. Could that be the case? That would be pretty awful. I certainly do hope that's not the case. As you can see, I do have this fan installed here. You might be wondering why. This is pointing at the VRMs, so when overclocking, it should be perfectly content at a decent temperature. But I am starting to kind of wonder what the hell is going on. I mean, okay, obviously it's not plugged in right now, so it cannot be still heating. It's just it's retaining the heat incredibly. It's still absolutely hot. Almost as if it's like on fire or something. Oh, that's really strange. At any rate, that's the 3 memory sticks right there, with the the 3 slots. And yeah, it's an LG DVD drive. That's the only one that's plugged in. I don't know. I don't really see anything particularly wrong. I don't see any bloated capacitors either. I mean, these caps should be perfectly fine as well, like these over here, because they are being actively cooled by this fan. This is not a fast fan, but it's, it's a 9 centimeter diameter. Not diameter, sorry. 9 centimeter on this side. And it's fairly slow, so it wasn't very useful in any systems other than this one, so I just decided to use it here. I don't know. I'm going to put it back together and we're going to take another look at it. Since I forgot to show you previously, here's the front of the system. Alright, so I have fired up IDA64 and we're going to take a look at the system and its voltages and temperatures. So it is getting 1.56 volt. I think that's actually normal for Northwood CPUs. They need a ridiculous amount of voltage. I'm gonna do a quick Google search, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be that of fairly high voltages. The 3 point, okay, yeah, it lists it at around 1.525 and we have a plus 5% added anyways. So it's quite high, but that should be normal. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to run the built-in stress test into IDA64 and then we'll see what happens. I'm going to test probably, I don't know if I should test the memory as well, because we want to kind of eliminate that. We want to just go for nothing but CPU right now, and then we'll do more stuff later. So right now it's just the CPU. Although from my experience, IDA64 isn't really something that pushes your CPU to its limits. So IDA64 for overclocking isn't the best thing to use because it just doesn't push your CPU as much as, say, Prime 95 So even if it's going to seem like a stable system through through IDA 64, it may not be in other tasks. Well, seems to be running all right. Doesn't get too hot. I don't know. I might download Prime 95, do a bit of testing and see what I can find. So far it has been behaving well. As I was trying to obtain a 32-bit version of Prime 95. Now where the... It says 64-bit. Come on now. What is this? They said it's 32-bit and then now it's not. Oh, is this it? There we go. I got it. Alright. The 32-bit version of Prime 95. And like, so far it hasn't done anything weird. It hasn't locked up completely yet. I'm not sure if maybe could it be really Firefox causing the issues? I don't know, to be frank. But nonetheless, I'm going to run a quick test in Prime 95 and then we'll see what's up. I don't think I have like any kind of... Actually, I probably have 7-zip. Whatever. It will be fine like this as well. So, let's see what's up. I'm gonna keep an eye out on our IDA 64 to look at the temperatures and scream if it's too hot. All right, so okay. Voltages seem fine. CPU is going up to 60. I'm actually kind of wondering what's the T max for this CPU. Not sure if I can find it, but actually it may not be that hard. Is this the one? Oh yeah, that's it. I'm looking at CPU World currently, and it says Tmax is 69 Celsius. Okay. So it shouldn't go up to 69, and then we'll be fine. Both workers are working away. I'm really starting to think that it's really bizarre. Like, it's not very likely. My experience says it cannot be Firefox. But I mean, who knows? Maybe it is Firefox. Completely collapsing under heavy modern internet load. Or just something wrong with the installation overall. Unfortunately, we don't have a GPU sensor, so we can't say how hot that gets. But this looks fine. We're only up to 64. It's probably only going to go up to around 67 or so and then stay there. But I mean, here's the thing. The load wasn't this hard on the system, so I'm really not quite sure what was happening. Another thing it could be is maybe the hard drive has a bad sector or is on its way out. Also going to download some software that can take a look at our hard drive and see if anything's wrong. I mean, it doesn't feel slow at all, so I'm not quite sure that's the case, but yeah, I mean, power supply doesn't even feel that hot right now. There's warm air coming out, definitely, but overall the system seems to be in good health, which is confusing as to why it was having issues before. So what I'm going to do now is, oh yeah, there you go, Steam, same issue. So I'll try to download, I was gonna say, but I can't remember what it was. I was going to get some program, what is it? Oh yeah. We have to get something to check out the hard drive with, see if it's in good condition. My go-to program for that is HD Sentinel. So I'm just gonna quickly download it and see what is going on. We're going to grab the trial version. This is also a good test for the computer. It's so bizarre. I really don't know. Maybe I really just need to reinstall the system and it will be fine. But I do want to get to the bottom of this. Although I am slowly running out of time. So yeah, this video might be a bit delayed. Wait, where's the, there we go. Okay. The computer feels snappy. It feels alright. Doesn't seem like there would be anything wrong with the hard drive. So I'm really confused as to what happened. Alright, let's see. I mean, it is a Maxtor drive, so not the most reliable from what I heard, but personally I had, oh. There might be the issue. What happened to this poor thing? What is this hard drive? I don't remember where that hard drive is from. Like, the Maxtor is doing fine. It's in immaculate condition, and that's what has the that's what Windows XP is installed on. But I have no idea where this hard drive even came from and what happened to it. I've got all kinds of games installed on it and stuff. What the hell? I am so confused. I even have 2 partitions for some reason. What system is this from? I really cannot say. Well, at any rate, I believe I found the issue. It must be that it was kind of trying to access this other hard drive, and that was causing severe issues. So, can I switch this to English? That'd be much appreciated. Oh, there we go. I'm blind. Okay. So, failure predicted. Attribute. 5 relocated sectors count. Count of sectors moved to the spare area. Indicate problem with the disk surface or the read-write heads. There are 214 bad sectors on the disk surface. The contents of these sectors were moved to the spare area. The drive found 7,004 bad sectors during the self-test. Based on the number of remapping operations, the health of the disk was decreased in different steps. Problems occurred during the spin-up of the disk 2 times. This can be caused by the disk itself or huge power load, weak power supply. The hard disk is operating in UDMA mode 2, which requires performance. Which reduces performance. It is recommended to use an AT conductor IDE. What kind of cable am I using for this? Okay, it's using the same. Oh wait, no, actually, hang on. Okay, it is using a 40 pin ID cable. I don't remember like any of this. It's so weird. I really do not remember why I put this hard drive in here if it was already in bad state, because it must have been in bad state already when I put it in. I'm just kind of confused. Like, I do not even know where this hard drive is coming from. So it's really interesting, but at least I found the issue. So we're just going to basically get rid of this hard drive, and yeah, I'm going to format it, put it away, and then never use it again, or well, go and recycle it or something. But yeah, that's interesting. Huh. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to put another 40 gigabyte hard drive in there. So we'll have, two 40 gigabyte hard drives. This says that the performance is not 100%, but I mean, it's still excellent. So I think we're going to be fine on that front. This hard drive seems to be fine. But this needs replacing. I don't think there's anything wrong with the power supply. The voltages are fine. So that must have not been the issue, the reason that the hard drive has went just completely nuts. All right. Well then, we can repeat the test apparently. So yeah, performance is 70%, health is 0%. That's just okay. That's interesting. I would love to like run something off of this. That'd be funny, but I don't think we can, because it seems like I mostly have Steam games on it, although we do have the program files here. Oh, Hot Pursuit 2 is installed here. Too bad I won't be able to run it. Okay. Oh, wait a second. So Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 3 was actually running through this hard drive. Huh. And it was working. It's working, see? That's interesting. How it can still function like this. But yeah, I'm definitely getting rid of this hard drive. I might even reinstall this system just to start fresh. It could never hurt. So yeah, because who knows, just want a nice fresh installation of Windows XP on this system. So yeah, in the upcoming parts of the video, we're going to replace the hard drive, install the RAM. So I'm probably going to go with 2.5 gigabytes. I was thinking maybe 3, but I'm not really going to need it. I'm just going to keep I'm just going to keep the 512 megabyte RAM in the system and then add 2 1 gigabyte sticks, and that will be it. I think 2.5 gigabyte is going to be more than enough for every game we're going to try on this system. So, catch you then. All right, ready to embark upon the installation of the aforementioned upgrades to this computer. And I have went ahead and removed the 2 hard drives. So the faulty Samsung hard drive has been removed, and I've also taken out the Maxtor drive that was used as the boot device. And actually, upon closer inspection of the other computer I've showcased in the previous video, I noticed that both of them are using the same type of hard drive. Isn't that unique? I had no idea. Goes to show you how little I remember things I've been tinkering with like about a year ago. So what I'm going to actually do, I had this idea that since I have 2 of these drives, I could try something that I've never done before. I could try RAID 0 these 2 drives for the added benefit of 2 Fireball 3 Maxtor 5400 RPM 40 gigabyte hard drives. Wouldn't that be something? So, the problem is though, I think this could potentially be the only computer I can try it in, because this one even has an onboard RAID controller. But the issue is I don't want to for this computer, and the reason for that is this only has a Northwood Pentium 4, and I don't really need the speed benefits of a RAID drive. Because for Windows XP, it's going to be fine to just use a normal IDE parallel ATA hard drive to boot into Windows XP. For Windows 10, I would like to try a RAID 0 configuration of 2 IDE drives, because Windows 10 has a tendency to be incredibly slow on just a single parallel ATA hard drive or any kind of hard drive running in IDE mode. So that would be a fun experiment, but I'm not sure I can do this on the other computer that I have. I'll have to look into that later on. I really don't want to do it here because it would be kind of a waste. So look forward to a video on that later down the line when I'm going to be attempting that. We'll see if the other computer may support it in RAID mode. But for now, I have decided to install a different hard drive, which I have completely misplaced. It's on my desk. Here we go. I grabbed it. So, here's the upgrade stack. Actually, it probably doesn't have the memory. Yeah, it's just a video card I'm going to be putting in. And I'll be putting this Western Digital 40GB hard drive in there. It's only 40 gigs, but honestly, I don't know, it might be enough. I'm probably only going to be putting older games on it, which don't really take up a lot of space. But even if I need to, I certainly have a lot of upgrade options for extra add-in hard drives. Also, funnily enough, when I mentioned in the previous video that I have this very noisy hard drive in that computer, I was guessing that it's an IBM hard drive, and my guesses were correct. It is indeed an IBM hard drive. I'm amazed that I could actually remember that. It's an IBM DeskStar, 80GB, 7200 RPM, actually 82.3 GB, November 2002. This is a serious contender. Pretty heavy too. This hard drive is probably bulletproof. Anyways, I'm going to crack on with the installation, and then I'll see you back soon. When you're dealing with old computer hardware and software, it is of utmost importance that you provide to yourself ample amounts of sweetness to counter the sodium levels in the forms of beverages and snacks. Here we are 2 weeks after I've started shooting this video, and I'm finally about to finish it. So there have been a couple of issues surrounding this computer's function. Namely, I was unable to fix the inevitable freezes this computer was encountering. But finally, I've made a discovery and was able to fix this issue. So here we are now in the workshop. I've moved the computer out here so I can work on it. Something has happened, not with this computer, but with another one. This here is my Windows 98 machine that I use for various activities such as gaming and streaming it on the internet on Twitch. And while I was doing a Need for Speed Porsche 2000 stream, it started just acting up. It would start crashing. I do not know why it was happening at the time. It was in a very interesting fashion as well. It would basically freeze and then continue operation as normal. Then it would freeze again a couple seconds after. Then it would continue again, and then for the third time it would freeze and lock up the system for good. Naturally, I thought, well, there must be something wrong with the hard drive or the power supply, because it did seem like a sort of like a hardware, like a hard drive failure. I ended up checking out the system, and upon closer inspection, I noticed how the CPU was getting really hot, just as well as the video card. So not only did I install an extra exhaust fan on the back to cool things down a little bit, I've also looked around in the smart data of the hard drive and noticed that there have been some communication issues with the hard drive and the parallel ATA controller chip. Now, this does not mean that the hard drive is faulty or the power supply. It just means that there might be an issue with the parallel ATA cable connecting the two. the two being the motherboard and the hard drive, not the power supply, obviously. So the setup of the system was such that I only used one parallel ATA cable connecting both the hard drive and the DVD drive on the bottom bay to the motherboard. And I didn't think much of it. I thought it's completely fine to have a DVD drive and the hard drive on the same channel, but apparently it can cause issues with some motherboards. So what I did is I removed the DVD drive from this very channel, bringing the primary channel. Even though I was using an 80-pin hard drive cable, it was still causing issues. So I removed the DVD drive and then installed a 40-pin parallel ATA cable for the DVD drive and then connected it to the secondary channel. That completely fixed all of the issues, even though Windows XP was having some really weird errors, such as corrupted files on the hard drive and them needing to be fixed, prompting me to run check disk to fix it. But thankfully all of that gone away once I've replaced the IDE cable. So this brings us back to this computer. This was actually having the same exact problem, but the crashes were like a little bit different in nature. So it would just be completely locking up immediately. And I've gone through so many troubleshooting solutions. I have replaced the power supply in this machine about 4 times and it did not yield any success. I have, because it did seem like a power delivery issue. And to make matters worse, this computer even threw me a curveball, showcasing me things such as working absolutely perfectly with hyperthreading disabled. I did not understand why that was. So I actually installed Windows XP on the system with hyperthreading disabled, and it was perfectly fine. It didn't crash once. As soon as I enabled it again, it would start crashing again, leaving me to believe that there might be something wrong with the motherboard, something flaky on the motherboard, because it seemed like an overclocking issue, but I was 100% certain that my overclocking settings were completely correct, and I did test it thoroughly, and it should have worked fine, but it did seem like this issue. So I tried increasing the voltage, and really, you should not do this at all. Don't do it, because Pentium 4s are hot enough as it is. But just out of curiosity, a system that I was going to be writing off anyways, I tried it, and it did not yield any success. It was getting just even more hot and would still crash. So what I ended up doing is I replaced the IDE cable, and temporarily that seemed to have fixed it, but then it just started happening again, and I really do not understand why. So the final changes I've made were basically that I moved the I've disconnected the DVD drive and then moved that to the secondary channel, just like I did on the other system. And I've also just have the hard drive and nothing else on the primary parallel ATA channel with one 80-pin wire cable. I'm hoping that that is all that was wrong with the system. It is really bizarre, but it is completely possible. Now, it has been working perfectly fine ever since I've done this, and I'm actually shooting this video for the second time because the first recording got lost, unfortunately, due to an error by the camera software that I'm using on my phone. I'd really like another phone or like some proper camera, but unfortunately I have to work with this. So what I ended up doing is, like I said, there's the new video card, the HD 2600 Pro, and CPU is still the same, the 3.06 GHz Pentium 4, which is now happily running at 3.33. Wow, I'm shaking, sorry. Kind of hard to hold this one-handed. All right, so yeah, it is now running at 3.33 GHz, completely stable, and now we have the 2 GB of Chinese eBay RAM thrown in there. Originally, I was going to do 2.5 GB, but I have overlooked a small detail in the fact that the 845 chipset from Intel does not actually support more than 2 gigabytes of RAM. So I'd like to get thank you. I'd like to get rid of the phone menu. So yeah, I have installed all the upgrades that I wanted. It still has the 40 gigabyte Western Digital hard drive in it, which I am probably going to be adding another drive to it, because 40 gigabyte is really, even for a Windows XP system like this, it's just not quite enough anymore. So I'm going to try to set up the camera as best as I can. I'll be moving it over here because in the first video I managed to put it right in front of the arrow keys, and then that made controlling it fairly complicated. So we have this nice little Philips job here. It's a 170B Philips 17-inch monitor I have out here, and then I will have to move it a little bit, I think. I don't know. Okay, this will work. So as you can see, this is one of those motherboards that lets you change the FSB. Well, you know, in here it's basically just the base frequency, the base clock, separate to all the other frequencies. As you can see, some of the crappier motherboards will not yet let you actually do that, and will yield you very bad results when overclocking, because as soon as you go above the 33 megahertz PCI bus, you're really just asking for trouble. In a system previously, I have it was a Shuttle AB52 motherboard. When I was trying to overclock it, I was running into that issue that, like, above 37 megahertz PCI bus, the sound card would stop functioning. So you really don't want that. And this is basically the same overclocking settings I had, and now it's working, like I said, perfectly fine. We have a 1-to-1 ratio with the CPU and DRAM, which means it's running at 145 megahertz, but it's DDR, so it's a double data rate, which means it's running at 290 megahertz, which is still perfectly fine because, like I said in the previous video, this RAM was actually running at 333 megahertz in that system. Actually a bit over that, I believe, at 345 maybe, because of the overclock. And it was working fine at that frequency, but it cannot do its advertised 400 megahertz, but it will be perfectly suitable for this machine here, running at 290 megahertz. And as you can see, it's a primary slave right now. It's not an issue really. It can still boot off of it, no issues. And there you go, the 2 gigabytes of RAM down there, which is the maximum supported for this system. All right, and as you can see, hyperthreading is now enabled. So let's check out the system. Let's boot into Windows. You can see the voltages are very low. That's because this motherboard is, this power supply is like not the best I have. I'll be switching it out soon when I'm adding the extra 40 gigabyte hard drive to the system for, you know, installation of more games onto it. Hopefully everything is working fine, because I was having a bit of an issue with the DVD drive. I believe it's because of the power supply. It seems to be not working again. Okay, let me just power cycle the system, and hopefully that will get it running again. Yeah, I really need to replace this power supply in this machine. This power supply is crap, but it was the only one I had laying around to test it. So I was in a bit of an issue when recording videos out here in the workshop, namely because I live in a European country and our line frequency on the mains is 50 Hertz, which means I have to enable 50 Hertz anti-banding, because out here in the workshop I'm using neon tubes as my light source, not LED yet. I was thinking about okay, it did recognize the DVD drive, I think. I was trying to but it's not working again. Okay, well, that's crap. Yeah, the DVD drive is not working. Oh boy. All right. Well, let me try to do something about it, and then I'll try to just swap the cables around. Maybe that will help, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just gonna ask for trouble. I don't know. Whatever. Then plug it back in and then try again. What is going on here? Okay. Cool. Alright. They're all plugged in. Let's go. So yeah, if I don't have anti-banding enabled, you can just see like light streaks everywhere. It's very unfortunate. So, and because the monitor is going to be running at 60 Hz, so it will be probably fighting, against the camera, but I think it will be watchable. I was thinking about upgrading to LEDs, but yeah, one day. I still have a bunch of neon tubes laying about, so I should probably burn through them before I do so. This is an old workshop, so. But yeah, as you can see, Windows XP booting. I think the new power supply will definitely fix the leftover issues, such as the DVD drive having troubles. Hopefully it's going to work, because there's a game I want to show you that requires the disk to be in the drive. So yeah, you can see a bit of streaking going up because of the 60 Hz versus 50 Hz, but I think it's manageable. I've even got a bit of a theme going on here. This is just I think it's like a Mac OS theme or something for Windows XP. I thought it looked kind of cool. I used to use it back in the day. It's a little bit nostalgic to me. I don't know if I can get rid of those streaks though. I think I would need to like make it go out of focus, and then so like have the monitor just a tiny bit out of focus. Might work wonders. I think it looks a little bit better, hopefully. All right. So I'm actually gonna immediately fire it up. So this is the game I was talking about. Until the inevitably breaking DVD drive stops functioning. I'm gonna quickly try. So this is Need for Speed 4, and we even have speakers in this monitor. Down there's a pair of tiny speakers. They don't sound very good, but at least we have a bit of sound going on. So yeah, this comes up with this weird online menu. I don't know. This one is like Need for Speed 4 with a modern patch installed. You could see I was like running the Vista executable, so it makes the game work on Windows XP and Vista. So I was having issues with this game. It was running like crap on the Pentium 4 machine with the Windows 98 and the 9250 Radeon video card. So I really wanted a machine where the game can run well, and I think I have found it. So, this video card is like 1,000 times better than the Radeon 9250 in my Windows 98 machine. And would you look at that? It runs beautifully. So happy about that. I can finally play this game. This is actually the first time I am playing this game in 60 FPS. My camera is not 60 FPS. Unfortunately, I can't really show that. I'd like to get a 60 FPS camera at one point, but it's not in the budget currently. But yeah, as you can see, it's running super, super well, and it looks great too. So I can't wait to do a couple of streams on this game in the future. Because when I did stream this once, but on the PC where it just didn't run very well. But here, even with the 4.5 modern patch, it just works absolutely fantastically. So this machine really has the power to run this game very well, which it really is ought to, since this game came out in 1999. Speaking of which, here's another game which does not run as well for whatever reason. It is 1 year older. This is Need for Speed 3 with a modern patch. Now, I have actually ranted about these modern patches before on stream, they really bug me. Like, I do not understand why is it that these games just run like absolute crap if you have modern patches installed. It's like the creators don't care about performance or something. Like, it does not play on, it's not unplayable, but it is definitely not 60 FPS, which is really bothersome because even on the camera you can notice it slows down, so it is definitely lower than 30 FPS. It's really bad. Like, it's playable alright, but I don't know. I'm not too happy about it. For some reason, Need for Speed 4 and 5 actually run better than this game with its modern patching. Of course, this game is mainly designed for Windows 98 and Voodoo video cards and such, but I do not own a Voodoo video card. I can't remember how well this game runs on the Windows 98 machine. I would have to double check, but it definitely doesn't run any better on this machine than it did before, because if you remember, at the beginning of the video, we did check out this game and it just ran pretty much identically, maybe a little bit worse. I think we may have improved just a tiny bit. We also have probably my favorite Need for Speed game, Porsche 2000, installed on here. These games took quite a bit of effort to get running. I have no idea why, but I'm struggling to get some of them working on the Windows XP. I completely given up on Need for Speed 2. Need for Speed 2 is just too old. I even tried like a specific installer. It would just give me an error. I decided to give up on it because it was just not worth my time. So yeah, for some reason, these old Need for Speed games just do not want to work very well on systems like this. So this is kind of like a scuffed version even of Need for Speed 5. For some reason, this one has some like extra reflections that I have never seen before. Only this version has it. This must be some kind of a modern patch as well, trying to improve the graphics. I mean, originally the cars only have like dull reflections. They have like a matte finish, but this one gives like a glossy finish to every car, and I mean it's not that bad. I've seen much worse. The reflections are kind of low quality though, so I feel like it was probably better without them. It's probably better with the matte finish, but I mean at least I got it working. I'm already happy about that because I couldn't get the original version working because these games were not designed for Windows 98 in mind. Even though this came out in 2000, you know, Windows XP wasn't out yet, so yeah. There is a patch for this game to run on Windows XP, but that didn't work for me, so yeah, I just had to mess around with it quite a bit to get it working, but now it runs pretty smoothly. I would say close to 60 FPS. So, those are the older games I've installed here. Let's check out Steam. So, yeah, Steam. Like I said at the beginning of the video, you can get Steam working on Windows XP to this day if you have an older build of Steam. That means if you have... I've basically downloaded this from the internet. This is a 2018 November release of Steam, which had the updater disabled, the automatic updates, the self-updates disabled. So the reason Steam breaks on Windows XP is just because there was an update that disabled functionality on the Windows XP. If you use an older build, it will still work perfectly fine. So there you go. Steam News comes up. And even the store works perfectly fine. And you can download your games off of Steam. It does say Steam will stop running on Windows XP in 0 days. Well, I beat the system, I suppose. Alright, so I've got a couple games downloaded we could go check out. I'll be starting up MS Afterburner. The reason I didn't start it up yet is because it just immediately crashes the older Need for Speed games. I guess we could take a quick look at CPU-Z as well. I was thinking about that. Well, let's actually check it out. So here we go. CPU-Z, Intel Pentium 4, Northwood, 130 nanometers,
we're getting a 1.568 volt reading, which probably drops down under load. And yeah, so yeah, definitely need to replace this power supply because 5 volts is like 4.8. And it's funny because I connected my phone to it to charge it, and it was actually stopping the charge because I think it was just not getting enough juice. It probably went down to like 4.7 or something, and I just gave up on it. So got a couple of games installed. Here we go. Oblivion. We all know that. Here's the keyboard, by the way, I'm using. If anyone's wondering, it's the my beautiful, if it would focus, Dell AT102W. Sorry, no, it's the Dell AT102. That's it. No W, no Windows key. But it's got colored alt and controls and stuff. It's pretty cool. All right. So, Oblivion. I think my settings are just they're I clicked the Ultra preset and then it just set it up according to that. I did change a couple settings, like it disabled anti-aliasing and enabled the what's it called? HDR. Yeah. Let's load this save file here. I don't know if it's better to be in focus or not, because then you'll see the pixels, but I'm not really decided yet. Leave a comment telling me if I should leave it in focus or just slightly out of focus so you can't see the pixels. I'm hoping my phone won't fall off the desk here. Yeah, it wants to stay in focus now. If I try this, how about that? All right, so there you go. It's running at 30 FPS. That's pretty good, isn't it? It does slow down a couple times, but it's completely normal. Oh yeah, don't worry, by the way, about the temperature reading. It says 100 Celsius, 100 Celsius, but if you could see, it does not move anywhere from that 100 Celsius. It's just a broken reading, and I forgot to disable it. I should have probably told you that sooner because now people have already commented on it, but it's fine. So yeah, as you can see, it's running pretty well. Around 20 to 30 FPS. Let's get into a town because those usually tax the system a bit more. I want to make it a bit out of, I don't know, like all I see is just rainbow effects on the screen, but it's like too blurry if I don't, I don't know. Kind of tricky. This might work better. All right, so we're getting about 19 to 20 FPS. I feel like it's playable. It does slow down here and there, but for this game, I don't think it's that bad. I could certainly play through this game like this. I wouldn't mind. Even though this game already, like it came out when I think dual core systems, like probably like Core 2 Duos were already out. Yeah, it seems to be running pretty well. All right, well, now let's check out another game. I've got Half-Life 2 installed, and it actually runs pretty well as well. So, let me try to fix this. Just a bit out of focus, hopefully. It doesn't want to doesn't want to get out of focus. Oops. Okay. I don't know. I can't really set this up properly, unfortunately. It seems like it always seems to be just in focus. Yeah. Okay. That might be better. Alright, so let's load a save file real quick. This is on the highest setting. I've maxed out every single setting. Except for anti-aliasing, I think I have it off. Because this video card isn't really it's not the strongest suit of it. Let's go to Ravenholm, despite the fact that we don't go to Ravenholm. And I can still see like, yeah, fuck it. I'm just gonna put it into focus and then we'll see. It might not be the most beautiful sight you've ever seen, but it will do for now, hopefully. So here we go, gameplay. This is not what I thought it would be. This is not. What the hell? Thought we're loading. We don't go to Ravenholm. What the hell? Where's that save? Oh, this is what I need to load, I think. That's the start of the level. Oh, this is not the start of the level, but okay. Oh! I already screwed up. Well, that's okay. So yeah, oh, okay. I gotta get out of here. As you can see, it's running pretty well. Fairly playable. It's actually 60 FPS right now. And you have to remember that this is not the Half-Life that came out back in the day. This is the so-called new engine Half-Life because... is that alive? Because in around 2007, I think, when they released the orange box is basically when they have updated the source engine running this game. So 2004's Half-Life would probably run slightly better, but you can't download it on Steam anymore. It always gives you the new engine variant. But yeah, it's running fairly smoothly. It's super playable. I could certainly play through it like this. It does slow down in like more action-heavy scenes. Whoops, I am playing terribly right now. Okay. Oh yeah, I love this little trap here. Super fun game. And runs pretty well on this system as well. Also, kind of an older game here, Grand Theft Auto 2. Actually, in the first video, when I first recorded this video, that is, I was having issues with it because I forgot about a tiny little detail. It's the fact that you actually have to do a bit of tweaking to get this working properly because out of the box on Windows XP, what it does is the frame limiter is set to the wrong value, so the game will run at around 21 FPS. You have to do a bit of registry hacking to get it to work at 30 FPS, but as you can see, I've already done it. It's not too bad. You could just Google GTA 2 frame rate fix or something like that, and then yeah, GTA 2. That's a Windows XP era game, sort of. Actually, no, it's Windows 98 because it came out in 1999, but it works perfectly fine here, and it's much less of a hassle to get working than on Windows 98 because you literally just download it on Steam. Okay. There was a bit of an audio glitch when I quit. That was interesting. And, okay, what else? I'll quickly jump into Dead Space, which is really not a Windows XP XP era game. I mean, it came out in 2008, I believe, or 7, which was already Windows Vista territory, but we all know about Windows Vista, and people still played it on Windows XP. 2008, yeah. Because Windows 7 came out in 2009, so I guess it is a Windows XP game, a very late one at that. And you'd be surprised, this game does not run very badly on Windows XP. It surprisingly runs fairly well. I've got every single setting completely maxed out, except maybe anti-aliasing. Probably don't have that on. Wait, I do. I should try to turn it off. See if that helps at all. I mean, it wasn't running too bad as it is, but yeah, why not? Give a bit of the breathing room for our video card. So I remember I've mentioned this Shuttle AB2 motherboard before. So that was my first more serious computer, because like before that I only had like an AMD K6, AMD K5 at 100 megahertz, so a very low end system. So that motherboard was part of my first more serious system. At the time, it had a 1.7 gigahertz Celeron and 512 megs of RAM and crap like that. But later on, I've upgraded it a little bit, and it got a 2.8 gigahertz Pentium 4 that I was talking about, and I've overclocked it to 3 gigahertz. That's the maximum I could get out of it, because of the fact that the values would always change together, so there was no way to just adjust it, adjust the base clock and nothing else. So every time I raised it up, the the PCI link frequency would go really high, and the sound card would stop working. So I got it up to 3 gigahertz stably, and that's how I played through this game actually on a TV. Nonetheless, I have connected this machine onto the TV. It had an ATI Radeon HD 3650, which was a pretty good card, but unfortunately it died at some point after a couple of resets. It just did not turn on anymore. And yeah, that system, I played through this game on it, and it was actually fairly playable. It wasn't perfect. It was far from it actually, because I was having some trouble with the some parts where it ran very slowly, but mostly it was quite playable. But you definitely want a hyper-threading system, because that was the fastest CPU that system would support. Maybe it would have supported the 3.06 gigahertz Pentium 4, but I'm not sure if you could enable hyper-threading in it. So yeah, that was the best I knew at the time. I could have probably gotten a better CPU and overclocked it better. Like there's this thing where you can just, if you get a 400 megahertz FSB Pentium 4 into the system, you can raise the FSB to 533 without changing the AGP and PCI bus frequencies, because it knows those two frequencies. So I could have done that, I suppose, but I didn't. And yeah, oh well, I didn't know as much about computers back then. But I did play through it, although there was a very weird thing at the start that I vividly remember. So this woman here, I do not remember her name, unfortunately, but so at the starting sequence here, when you're walking through some kind of a bridge, the frame rate absolutely tanked. It went down to around 5 FPS. And when it hits that magical 5 FPS mark, her hair goes wild. It's quite entertaining, actually. It just suddenly becomes incredibly long and starts just wailing around like crazy. So I think they probably overlooked this slight issue. I mean, realistically, EA is not going to test their game if it's going to run at 5 FPS proper at all times, because yeah, no one would want to play the game like that anyways. But definitely, when the frame rate tanks, funny things happen to the physics engine of this game. But as you can see, this system will run the game much better than that could, so that's good. Unfortunately, this is an unskippable scene. I've done it at least 400 times recently, trying to shoot this video. All right, and testing the system stability as well. But yeah, definitely. Once I'm done with this video, I'm going to be replacing the hard drive. I don't think I'm going to be filming that because it's not very exciting. I just put in a new power supply and another hard drive, and that's about it. The reason I'm using these 40 GB hard drives is I have a bunch of them, and they're not very useful for anything else anymore. Because even if I was to just have a system for testing operating systems, or just if I just want a PC with nothing but an operating system and a browser, I can't put Windows 10 on it because if with a 40 GB drive you're screwed. You definitely want at least 60 or 80 GB because of all the updates. Because I've run into that issue that I had this workshop PC with a 40 GB hard drive, and it just did not have enough space to update anymore, and that was very obnoxious. So I had to clone the hard drive, and I basically cloned it onto an 80 GB drive, and now it works perfectly fine. So as you can see, so we were getting 5 FPS at this section when she was walking that way. So I think we're going to hit a much higher speed now. Well, we're getting 11 here. I mean, this section here doesn't run very well. Once we enter the base, it's going to get better. But as you can see, it is pushing it quite hard. Actually, it seems like I didn't really win much at all by disabling anti-aliasing. If anything, it feels like it's running worse, which is bizarre, but yeah. We've doubled or tripled our FPS, it seems, compared to that system, which is good. Like, don't take this as a good representation of the game, because this is a fairly open area, and like most of the game is going to be like not that open, and it will run much better later on. Like already we're getting 20 FPS in here, which is honestly that's quite playable, I feel like. Oh yeah, our GPU is working hard now. But yeah, as you can see, CPU and GPU are both pushed quite hard by this game. It's a late Windows XP game. It would be more optimal to play this on a Core 2 Duo, for example, but you know, this game doesn't really use that much CPU power, so it does run playably on a Pentium 4. So if you happen to not have any other computer than a Pentium 4 for whatever reason in 2019, then you can sort of play through that space. I think even the second game runs fairly well, so it is something you can do. But anyways, this video is already incredibly long, and I've babbled on for about an hour in the first attempt at recording this video, so I'm going to quickly just fire up one more game, which will be Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl. This one is part of the ones that did not run very well. The video card, it's a 2600 Pro. It's not that fast. It's from 2007, which actually is the same year as this game. So it is understandable that it does not run very well. So yeah. Unfortunately, I was thinking about putting the 4650 in this machine, but I have other plans for that, so this will be fine. I mean, I could just play Stalker on like any other system, because Stalker definitely works on modern systems as well just fine. So it would be more enjoyable like that anyways, at 60 FPS all maxed out. Whereas on this machine, I would struggle to achieve that. I did try before a Pentium 4 system with a very strong video card for the Pentium 4, that is, and this game ran very well. I had to disable sun shadows though to reach 60 FPS, but with sun shadows I was getting around 30 FPS, so it did run okay. But with this video card, we're only experiencing about 20 or so FPS. It's still playable, but I would probably choose another system to play this game as well. But yeah, this is not really the point. I'm just kind of showing off the limits of the system, how far you can push a system like this with an early hyperthreading CPU, the Northwood 3.06 at 3.33. So this is even, overclocked quite heavily and still is struggling with some of these games. Unfortunately, yeah, this game, for example, for some reason, like disables our access to MSI Afterburner. I don't know why. You have to like Alt-Tab and come back into the game to see it. Yeah, this is the last game I'm showing. I think I've talked about most of the things I wanted to. So I'm happy with how it turned out. I'm mainly really happy that I can finally put an end to this video because for a really long time I was struggling because, like I said, for 2 weeks I was trying to figure out what was wrong with the system, and all it was just a parallel ATA cable. So hopefully I will be able to just solve this case completely when after replacing the power supply and adding a new hard drive, and then this machine will be my little Windows XP gaming machine here for specific uses. Early 2000s games mostly that would normally struggle on other systems. So yeah, this is an incredibly long video, about 1 hour and 40 minutes by now probably, but I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you found it entertaining. I definitely had a ton of fun making it, other than the parts where I was struggling to figure out what was wrong with the system because it was really, really confusing behavior. But finally, I've made it. I'm going to quickly alt-tab to get MSI Afterburner back, hopefully. So this is fairly high settings, like almost maxed out, because why not? And we're getting about, yeah, not very many frames per second. Currently it says 14, but I mean, I've seen about 20 FPS at this section, so it does get better, it does get worse. I guess there's a lot of characters on the screen right now, it's kind of tanking, but yeah, around 20 FPS, it's still fairly playable, I would say. Certainly you've seen better. I could have, I suppose, thrown together a better showcase of this machine, and I might actually do that in a later video. And now that I think about it, I could compile a couple Windows XP specific games that would normally, I don't know, would be better played on this machine, you know? So I might do a follow-up on this system later on when I already have the other hard drive in there and more appropriate games to test out, because I really just quickly downloaded a couple of Steam games to showcase the system and test stability and show you how much you can do with a system like this. But yeah, that's about it. Hope you enjoyed this incredibly long video epic showcasing my Pentium 4 system. And yep. See you in the next one. I'm going to be having a couple more Pentium 4 related videos later on as well, because I've got a couple systems I'd like to repurpose and give them a second life and see what I can do with them. So definitely stay tuned for those videos if you enjoyed this one. And as always, I'll see you later.